You're right, Zachary Kiihne on your left. It's Golgari mid-range against Selesnya Tokens. Both these players 11-2, very much in top 8 contention. They've been given the green light, and Brad's going to kick things off with a Llanowar Elves. Now, as we mentioned in our match a little bit earlier, well, actually just the last match that we watched between Will Pulliam and Gerard Fabiano, this deck, this Golgari mid-range deck, it doesn't really mind mulliganing too much because of cards like this in Jade Light Ranger, revealing a Wild Growth Walker. It can help undo the mulligans pretty quickly.
Yeah, and Wild Growth Walker is one of the better cards in this matchup, but with Brad already casting his Jade Light Ranger and just really needing raw resources to recoup from those mulligans, I think putting the graveyard is correct, and he leaves fine finality on top.
Going to be another copy of Legion's Landing here for Zachary Kiihne, so he'll get another token. A Temple Garden enters the battlefield tapped, and if Brad was unsure about which deck he was playing, he knows now. Now, here's a Karn. Karn's going to come down. It's going to reveal a couple of cards. Karn and Memorial to Folly. Looks like Karn, where's it going to go? This one's going to go there. Memorial Folly will go underneath the Karn. And we're going to head back over to Zachary Kiihne, who will draw a card. Picked up a copy of Sun Petal Grove, and now it's going to be a Venerated Loxodon. So these tokens will get a little bit larger, and we're going to head back over to Nelson. Nelson with an active Karn on 6 counters. Elevator might be going up to 7 here in just a moment. We'll have to see for Brad.
Now, the draw from Kiihne here is not particularly good. Legion's Landing on 1, yeah, that's a fine start. Legion's Landing tap land on 2, not really ideal. And no creature into Venerated Loxodon on 3 means that it didn't quite get a ton of value. Brad here with the Karn tick up and then the tick down, gaining 2 cards. Almost undone all the mulligans already.
Yep, he's catching up very, very quickly here. Kiihne's trying to apply some pressure on what is now his 4th turn of the game. And he'd like to do some attacking. We'll see where these creatures are going to go.
Yeah, notably, though, Zach is going to be transforming this Legion's Landing into Adonto the First Fort. A very, very strong sequence for this Selesnya Tokens deck.
Looks like all these tokens are going to go at Karn. Well, pardon me, all these creatures, because Venerated Loxodon is not a token. So all these creatures are going to go at Karn, and we'll see how Nelson opts to block. Todd did mention that Adonto, the First Fort, is now on the battlefield, given the transformation of Legion's Landing.
Yep. I like a block of Jade Light here on the Venerated Loxodon, trading off, sending Karn to 1. That still allows Karn to stick around for another turn of plussing. And also puts a second creature in Brad's graveyard so that he can get full value out of the front half of Fine Finality with the Wild Growth Walker and gain some life. However, Brad putting a lot of value on the back half of Fine Finality and Finality as a sweeper effect.
We'll go back over to Brad now as Kiihne's going to play a Temple Garden tapped. So over to Nelson. Todd, you did a nice job of mentioning Finality as the sweeper, meaning that Kiihne realistically can't play another creature. Now, he does have a Adonto to activate, but playing more creatures onto this battlefield when you know your opponent has Finality, not ideal. And Brad does have another Karn, so he's going to reload here. Elevator going up. Swamp and Carnage Tyrant are the reveals here for Brad Nelson. We'll see which one Zachary Kiihne wants to take and push underneath the Karn. It looks like he says, Carnage Tyrant, you get a silver counter. Swamp, you go to Brad's hand. Brad will play it very quickly, and now there is the Adonto activation.
Yeah, this is a game plan that Brad has enacted in many a mirror match where you basically try to force your opponent into overextending into the back half of Finality and keeping 1, maybe 2 large creatures on the battlefield while cleaning up all, if not most, of your opponent's creatures.
It'll be another vampire token there as we get the right token on the battlefield there for our viewers at home and for Zachary to make sure there's no confusion on the battlefield of what the tokens do and what their creature types are.
Yeah, March of the Multitude is actually fairly problematic here for Brad, especially if Kiihne can follow that up with something like the back half of Flower Flourish, and by not attacking with any of his tokens, he is representing a fairly large March of the Multitudes this turn. You could follow that up with, it doesn't even have to be Flourish. It can be anything that pumps some, if not all, of his creatures. Brad very wisely putting up a giant roadblock here in Carnage Tyrant, though.
It's just going to be a Adonto activation, so Kiihne does not have March of the Multitudes. It looks like he might just be flooding out here.
I'm pretty sure he has March, but he doesn't want to just play a March of the Multitudes. It doesn't really accomplish all that much.
I suppose that makes a lot of sense, right? If he just plays a large March of the Multitudes and then gets in a little bit of an attack, okay, sure, then they just all get swept away by Finality.
Yep. I believe Zach's hand is a couple lands, and then he has Tristani Discordant and March of the Multitudes, which combined is a pretty big 1-2 punch. You know, you get to pump all of these tokens by one and attack in for a pretty sizable chunk of damage, but it's not quite lethal, and until it is, I think that Kiihne is just going to keep churning out tokens via Danto the First Fort.
Right now for Zachary Kiihne, he can make 7 tokens with March of the Multitudes, which not bad. Nelson going to reveal Find Finality in Forest. Brad says, I know you're going to put the Find Finality underneath the Karn. I'll take care of that for you. Give me my Forest, and I'll play it.
The problem here for Brad is that March of the Multitudes is at instant speed, whereas Finality is at sorcery speed. So Zach here actually has the initiative, and at any point that he wishes to bite, Brad is going to have to try to figure out a way to defend from that big all-out attack. And if Zach just keeps churning out tokens from Adonto the First Fork and hitting land drops each turn, that's basically upping his March of the Multitudes count by 2, which is basically adding damage to the battlefield by 4.
And we can't forget, too, that because Kiihne's got so much life, he's sitting at 24. Brad is incentivized to pressure him because he doesn't want to continue to play this game.
Yep.
So he's got to try to get this game over with in some capacity. So that's why you're going to see Carnage Tyrant come into the red zone here, because Brad can't sit and continue to do this, because if Zachary, for example, does find a copy of Flower Flourish, the game is going to end.
Yeah, I think Brad's best bet is probably to figure out a way to buffer his life total via Wild Growth Walker. He has one in the graveyard already, which he can get back with a Memorial to Folly, but he's not going to worry about doing that just yet.
All right, so he's going to play Finality now. And it looks like Kiihne is going to go for March of the Multitude. So the thought process here, right, is, okay, you finally played Finality. Fine. Now I'll make some tokens and do my Tristani line that I've been setting up a little bit here.
Yeah, and while he can't do a ton of damage to Brad this turn, only 8, he can choose to take down the Karn. If he sends all 4, it even kills the Karn through a spot removal spell.
Well, there's Assassin's Trophy. Well,
oh, I didn't see that one.
Yeah, that makes it pretty bad, actually, because Karn's not going to die. So Brad set this up pretty nicely. And remember the conversation we had with Brad a little bit earlier in the weekend. Brad feeling Assassin's Trophy was really well positioned on this weekend. He likes having cards in tournaments like this that just take care of random problems.
Yeah. In this situation, that cast down would normally be, or sorry, that Assassin Trophy would normally be the second copy of a cast down, which does not target a legendary creature like Tristani Discordant.
Unsurprisingly, very good deck building in play here by Brad Nelson, sitting at 11-2. Kiihne no slouch either, as we mentioned. He's got a couple Grand Prix top 8s, of course, and he did get second place with his team at SCG Las Vegas. Kiihne sitting in the standard seat with Selesnya tokens. They lost in the finals, unfortunately, for the Kiihne team. But Kiihne, a big proponent of Selesnya tokens, felt it was very well positioned in the metagame here this weekend. Said as much on the select side of StarCityGames.com, so if you're a Selesnya tokens fan, I implore you to check out the article. But maybe after this game is over, as this one does appear to be a pretty close one. Carnage Tyrant thinking about attacking again here, this time for 9.
Yeah, the problem here with attacking from Brad's side is that he's basically conceding the Karn to death in order to deal 9 points of damage, which is reasonable. His plan here is almost assuredly going to be to tick down the Karn and use Finality to sweep up these tokens, but Kiihne can use the Adonto First Fort during the end step to create a 1-1 to put that last point of damage on the Karn, unless Brad has a Llanowar Elves to play defense as his last mana.
Oh, there's the Finality again. Sweep him away. Goodbye tokens. Does he have the Llanowar Elves that Todd mentioned? He does not. So Adonto will make another Vampire.
Now that is 2 copies of Finality down. Brad only has 3 in his main deck, and that means that Kiihne only has to worry about 1 more sweeper really for the rest of the game. So any future copies of Find Finality are probably safe. Or not Find Finality. March of the Multitude.
Sure. And now this is, I mean, March is probably his best draw now, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Just generate a bunch of creatures with lifelink. Very easily erases Carnage Tyrant even with 4 counters on it.
Yep. Speaking of Carnage Tyrant, here it comes again. Kiihne going to take 9, going to fall down to 4. And Brad with a couple cards. And remember, this is a game where Brad Nelson mulliganed to 5.
Yep.
And he's still keeping up just fine. I think, again, this is part of the appeal of Golgari midrange, not only for Nelson, but many players in the room, which is this deck is a card advantage machine. You know, it sees a lot of cards. Card density is kind of the name of the game. Not so much on selection, though Explore will let you do a little bit of selection, and we're going to see some more exploring right now here in Jade Light Ranger, putting in Llanowar Elves into the graveyard and a force onto the battlefield. But this deck undoes mulligans very well, it appears.
Oh, absolutely. This is funny if you were watching Brad during that turn. He was actually counting up. Even though Zachary Kiihne only has one card in hand, Brad was trying to figure out exactly how much damage he could do with the 1-2 punch of end of turn March of the Multitudes and then a top deck Flourish. And I think he was still short through a Vraska's Contempt and a blocker, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, good to know. Ajani, Adversary of Tyrants, will enter the battlefield. And there's a Vraska's Contempt to take care of a token. And as powerful as Ajani can be, Vraska a little bit more powerful and going to get the job done. So Brad Nelson going to win game number 1 here over Zachary Kiihne. Golgari mid-range up a game here over Selesnya tokens. Nelson dialing it in. We've seen serious Brad before, and he's certainly serious right now. Got to be feeling good about that game. We're going to Zach Kiihne first in his 15 cards. He's got 3 Knight of Autumn, 2 Baffling End, 2 Shall I, Voice of Plenty, 2 Lyra Dawnbringer, nice little angel package, along with 2 Vivian Reed, 2 Ixalan's Binding, the Immortal Sun, and an interesting one there in Citywide Bust. Not a card you see a ton of in sideboards and Standard. What do you like here, Todd?
Well, most of the creatures from Zach Kiihne's side of things are going to have a low amount of toughness. Citywide Bust is particularly good at destroying things like giant Wildgrowth Walkers as well as Carnage Tyrant. So I definitely think that's coming in along with the Immortal Sun, which shuts down Brad's Vivian Reeds while also providing Kiihne with a huge natural advantage should he be able to untap with it. I'm not a huge fan of Ixalan's Binding in this particular matchup. I don't think that Selesnya Tokens deck wants to play that role, but it is a great answer to something like Vivian Reed, which could be one of the game breakers. And again, as we mentioned before, Vivian Reed is one of the few ways these Golgari decks have to actually interact with artifacts and enchantments. So if you're able to Ixalan's Binding it, it should be good for the rest of the game. After that, I just want Vivian Reed and not a lot else.
For Brad Nelson, currently up a game on that mulligan to 5, as we mentioned. 4 Duress, 2 Assassin's Trophy, 2 Cast Down, 2 Golden Demise, Deathgorge Scavenger, Midnight Reaper, Plague Crafter, the Eldest Reborn, and Vraska Relic Seeker. Todd, what's Brad looking at?
You want ways to interact with Conclave Tribunal. That's one of and I guess Ixalan's Binding after sideboard. These are the ways that they contain some of your more powerful threats. So I want the Vraska Relic Seeker, definitely. Golden Demise is pretty solid in this matchup as a way to help clean up a March of the Multitudes or the like when they're not killing you on the following turn after casting it. Assassin's Trophy, again, just another way to just take care of random permanents. I like it in any matchup where your opponent is likely to have the Immortal Sun. Duress also an option because these Selesnya Tokens deck's best cards are March of the Multitudes, but they like saving them until they get to play during the untap and untap for lethal.
Yeah, the 1-2 punch that he was trying to set up.
Right.
Yeah, makes total sense. All right, let's talk about the StarCityGames.com YouTube page real quick before we get back to a fascinating match here, second game there. Now, of course, we got plenty of stuff on this page. First step, subscribe. You can be one of over 150,000.
It's free.
And it's totes free, so that part's nice. Versus Series and Versus Live with Brad and Nelson. You're watching him right now. Todd Anderson, you're listening to him.
Hey, that's me.
And Ross Merriam, well, you know, it's Ross.
Yeah, Ross is great. Ross is really coming to his own on the Versus Series, Versus Live specifically. You know, he's a personality that you kind of just have to open out of the box. Like, he's very reserved until you get him talking about the things that he really likes.
And then he's going.
And then he's off and running.
We got Commander Versus, of course, with Jeremy Knoll, Jonathan Suarez, Justin Parnell, and the American Dream, Stephen Green. Flashback, we've done one with Todd, Brad, Ross, Jim Davis, and more of those to come. Best of SCG Tour moments and replays, and a whole bunch more. Again, subscribe today at youtube.com/StarCityGames. Become one of over 150,000 subscribers. And you'll be able to watch the replay of this match between Zach Kiihne and Brad Nelson if you'd like.
Yeah.
Brad working on another invitational top 8 here. He's not too far away from doing that. Looks like he might be taking another mulligan with a 32-year-old.
Yeah. More like Sad Nelson.
Brad with 3. That's not even good. I'm laughing. Three Envy top 8s working on number 4. He had a win back in India a couple of years ago. That's why you got that GOAT token from Old Trading Post many moons ago. A couple of open top 8s as well, most recently in Baltimore last weekend.
He got some flack for that GOAT token from the professional community.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, you think you're the greatest of all time? Huh? Seriously? And Brad's just like, what? No, what? Is that an acronym? No, I just wanted to be a GOAT because I really like trading posts. Leave me alone.
And he was really into trading post, weirdly. here's a
It was
Duress.
like, he wanted to do Trainwreck Tuesday for a while. I don't know if you remember
I
that.
remember that Trainwreck Tuesday stream thing.
Just a stream thing he wanted to do where all he would do is play trading posts all day, every day.
Kiihne's hand here, not the most explosive. There are good cards, obviously, but I'm taking a look at a March of the Multitudes, a Baffling End, a Conclave Tribunal, a Johnny, and I suppose the card that he's going to hope to ride to victory here in Amara, Soul of Accord.
Yeah, Amara is pretty good if you're able to clear out the blockers from Brad Nelson's side of things. The odds of him having some sort of cheap spot removal for it are pretty low, and even if it does come down to it, it's going to be something like Assassin's Trophy, which actually ramps you into some of your bigger things. Zachary Kiihne is very clearly putting an emphasis on stuff like Baffling End, Conclave Tribunal here, in order to take care of these early blockers and clearing the way for this Amara to keep attacking.
Brad deep in the tank here with this Duress to finally figure out exactly where this game is going to go.
I think he's going to take Baffling End. If you play something like Merfolk Branchwalker next turn, he wants Zachary Kiihne to use something like a Conclave Tribunal on it if he wants to start using the Amara Soul of the Accord's ability. But it depends on what's in his hand. He could go for the super-duper long game and just take March of the Multitudes here, since that is one of the better cards against him. Opting to take the Ajani, though.
Well, there's Amara. Mystery card drawn there by Zachary, and there's your 2-drop in Wild Growth Walker. Now we're heading back over to Zachary. Does he want to play Baffling End? It looks like the answer is yes. So Baffling End will take care of Wild Growth Walker, and Nelson will be taking a little bit of damage here. Baffling End, interesting card. When it enters the battlefield, exile target creature an opponent controls with converted mana cost 3 or less. When Baffling End leaves the battlefield, target opponent creates a 3/3 green dinosaur creature token with trample, so they don't get the Wild Growth Walker back. That's gone.
Yes.
Forever.
Yeah, unlike a lot of these, I like to call them Oblivion Ring effects, these exiling enchantments, Baffling End is a way for you to permanently deal with a problematic cheap threat, and if they are able to unlock it, they're simply rewarded with a random 3/3 dinosaur that doesn't matter.
Well, it looks like Kiihne's draw is shaped up pretty well here. Amara's starting to turn out some tokens. Venerary Loxodon's going to pump up the jam, and now Nelson is a little bit behind here.
Yeah, Venerary Luxodon, a huge draw for Zach because he doesn't have to attack into a potential Assassin's Trophy on the Baffling End, and then an eventual block by the 3/3 dinosaur on the Amara.
And we already know what's in Zachary Kiihne's hand as well.
Jupes? Okay.
Looks like it's going to be Vraska's Contempt.
All right, well, a pretty big attack here coming in for Kiihne, as well as still having a March of the Multitudes in hand on top of now a Vivian Reed.
Now, the only thing missing here for Kiihne is just a 5th land, it looks like. So
Yep.
we're going to head back over to Nelson. Nelson's got to be pretty pleased with that.
Yeah, passing of the turn, ability to only make 1 token off of a potential March of the Multitudes. Definitely a spot where he's happy to be after falling so far behind.
Memorial to Folly is going to be played there after Branchwalker by Brad. And Brad is going to do a little bit of blocking, it appears. Can't forget about a fine finale and how it works itself into the equation. It hasn't done that just yet here for Nelson.
Yeah, it looks like Kiihne actually peeled the 5th land, so this Vivian Reed is going to spell a lot of trouble for Brad. As he's trying to clear up these creatures on the battlefield, he's also going to have to find a way to deal with this Vivian Reed.
And there is Vivian Reed, elevator going up to 6. Kiihne going to take a look at the top couple of cards, see which one he's going to reveal. It'll be Venerated Loxodon, a card he really likes in this deck, so the other cards will go to the bottom. Venerated Loxodon added to the grip. We head back over to Nelson.
It's funny, the Vivian Reed plus in this deck is actually not that good.
It's not great.
You have some Venerated Loxodons, some Adonto Vanguards, Mara. There's not a lot.
It's certainly not as good here as it is in Brad's deck. No doubt about that.
The minus is pretty good, though.
Yes.
Being able to take care of artifacts and enchantments is nice.
We can't forget right now, Nelson's at a low life total here at 8. He's going to follow things up with a Vivian Reed of his own, plus this to 6. Take a look at the top couple of cards, and ideally take one along with him. It'll be a big old dinosaur. We're heading back over to Kiihne.
Yeah. Notably, Zach only has 5 total power on the battlefield, so if he wants to take care of the Vivian Reed this turn, he's going to have to use something like Conclave Tribunal or find some way to pump his creatures via Vivian Reed, but I don't think that actually exists. The ultimate is looming from the Vivian Reed on Zach Keene's side.
Getting there. Getting there. Kiihne with 5 lands. Has a land to play now in Temple Garden or Basic Plains, pardon me, if he'd like to. Looks like he's going to go directly at Brad Nelson's face.
Yeah, you're not able to clear off the Vivian Reed via attacks. Might as well ignore it. Put Brad down to 3 life, threatening lethal next turn with a March of the Multitudes on the ready on X equals 3 in the face of a Find Finality. Unless Brad's able to find a Wild Growth Walker and an Explorer creature this turn, chances are he's dead.
Nelson's going to take the long look at his hand. It is interesting, that duress of the early stages of the game. Did he take the right card? Should he have taken Baffling End? Should he have taken March? Should he have taken a Johnny? Most of those non-creature spells work themselves into the equation. He couldn't take them all, and he's going to pick up his permanents and concede the game. So Zachary Kiihne is going to win this game. Tied up here. He and Brad Nelson going to get ready for a third and final one. Selesnya Tokens, Golgari mid-range. They're dialing in. They're dialing in, folks. Baffling End came in from the sideboard. Not sure if these Angels came in yet. We've obviously seen at least one copy of Vivian Reed here from Zachary Kiihne. And the Immortal Sun, he even wrote about this. He said, it's kind of my haymaker against Golgari. Makes things pretty easy for me to win.
Oh, absolutely. If you're able to stick the Immortal Sun on the battlefield, chances are you're going to lock the Golgari deck out of many of its key win conditions, as well as generate a lot of value on your side, pumping all of your creatures by 1, as well as drawing an extra card each turn. The reducing your card's cost by 1, not a huge effect, but the other two certainly very explosive.
For Brad, we know some number of duresses to come in. Of course, Zachary Kiihne playing tokens, so he's got a lot of non-creature spells. Golden Demise, I have to imagine, are in, and then a couple other things here and there for Brad, but all tied up. If I'm Brad, though, I'm feeling kind of good simply because, 1, I'm very good at this whole standard thing, but 2, I'm playing a Land of War Elves deck, and I'm on the play.
Yeah.
That's always a good feeling.
Although there is a good chance Brad doesn't have Land of War Elves in his deck after sideboard because he has Golden Demise, and one of his bigger plans is to just cast Finality. The tokens deck doesn't put enough pressure on you early to really feel like you're under enough pressure to need Land of War Elves to ramp into Finality. You can kind of naturally hit it as your 6th land drop without needing to speed it up by any.
Well, third and final one. That'll be coming here in just a moment. We want to make sure that you have signed up for a StarCityGames.com newsletter, though. It is your source for Magic the Gathering news, where we've got highlights from some of our best articles, upcoming SCG Tour dates and locations.
Who's that? Brian G?
That is old Brian G.
Commentator extraordinaire for
Soon.
StarCityGames.com?
Soon to be. Possibility Store and Puzzle Solutions, IQs and game nights near you, and as I mentioned, it's totes free to sign up for it. Go to StarCityGames.com/newsletter. As these players are underway here in game number 3, they couldn't wait, as Brad's going to play a forest, as will Zachary. And it'll be a flower. Zachary going to search up a plains.
It's amazing how flower is like still very good, right? It's a very powerful card. It's one of the better cards in the Selesnya Tokens deck, but it's not bannable.
No.
Unlike Attune with Ether, where you just tack on 2 energy to it. Let it get, one of any basic land.
Yeah.
Ban it.
Yeah.
Lay of the land, add 2 energy to it, ban it.
Yeah, too good. Too good then, apparently.
Yeah. Man, energy was messed up. I'm glad that's gone.
It's gone for now.
Yeah. Well, until we get the arena version of Modern, and then it's going to be all Aetherworks Marvel all the time.
Perhaps we make a return to Kaladesh.
Great.
You don't know.
Awesome. Hopefully all of the Ether guys and gals are...
they're out of energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, just I don't have any more.
Gonti's Steelheart or Gonti's...
Some giant thing. I know what you're talking about. That
Steelheart.
Yeah.
Yeah, get it out.
In with the vampire token comes Zachary Kiihne. You saw the branch walker come in. Is it time for History of Benalia? There we go.
This is Brad's nightmare.
I was wondering
turn 3 History of Benalia. If Kiihne has turn 4 History of Benalia, there it is. Gonti's Aetherheart. Eat your heart out. This was a card that I thought might actually end up replacing Aetherworks Marvel in the format just as a 6-mana Time Walk. That's just not even good.
No, it's not even remotely good.
6-mana Time Walk is just not good.
No, not quite.
Yeah, spin on energy. I could use that to make Thopters.
Yes, and a bevy of other things.
You're fired.
As we're going to head back over to Zach. He's going to make another 2/2 Vigilant Knight. And now Nelson going to play a little bit of defense as Kiihne will play his 4th land. It is a Plains.
Yeah, something like Golden Demise here is not all that powerful, unfortunately. If you know, Brad does have it, he's really only taking care of the history of Benalia, you know, and the Legion's Landing 1/1, but he's opting here to just use Vraska's Contempt on a 2/2 token to buy some time and stem some bleeding.
Yeah, gain a little bit of life as Nelson going to go up to 21. Land number 5 is a Swamp. There's Vivian Reed. That's going to plus. Take a look at the top couple of cards here. Will Nelson. He will select Merfolk Branchwalker. Shuffle. Rest will go to the bottom. We'll head back over to Zach. Zach is going to play March of the Multitudes. Only going to get 3 tokens here, but this is going to allow him to, 1, read Chapter 3 on History Benalia, and 2, transform Legion's Landing into Adanto, the first fort, most likely, if he wants to make that play.
Yeah, his big plan here is to just make sure he is able to get Vivian Reed off the battlefield. If he plays a Tristani Discordant here, pumps all of his tokens by 1. If he sends most of them at Vivian Reed, it should be enough to clear.
And Vivian Reed is certainly worth paying attention to, so Zachary's got to weigh that card into the equation. Sun Petal Grove is the land. 4 mana here. That is a Conclave Tribunal to take care of Merfolk Branchwalker. Now it's time to get some attacking in here. So he's going to finish off Vivian there and come in with a couple of points and transform into Adanto, the first fort. So not a bad turn there for Kiihne as Vivian Reed will bite the dust. Some damage will come through as well. And Kiihne will pass the turn back. We're going back over to Brad Nelson now, Todd.
Yeah, this battlefield looks pretty bad for Brad. If he has a Golden Demise or something here to clean up and then follows it up with something good next turn, he might be okay. But as far as what's on the battlefield right now, he's in a little bit of trouble.
Karn's going to come down. Druid of the Cowl will go to the hand. Forest will go underneath the Karn.
It's actually pretty good for Brad. Kiihne actually gave Brad the Druid of the Cowl as a potential blocker, thinking that maybe Brad needed his 6th land badly for Finality. But Brad actually has a 6th land and just needed a way to be able to protect that Karn for a turn. Now Kiihne's going to need a way to actually clear out this Druid of the Cowl if he wants to get Karn off the battlefield next turn.
There's Merfolk Branchwalker. Take a look at the top cards. Vivian Reed. Not sure if that's ideal in a situation like this.
It's better than a random draw, I think. Has to be.
Well, it looks like Brad agrees as we head back over to Zach.
Especially if he has some way to clean up these tokens.
Time for Zach to draw a card. This would be a huge feather in Zach's cap. No invitational top 8 just yet for our Selesnya Tokens player. Looking to get his first one of those, and on his way there, if he were to beat Brad Nelson in Standard, yeah, that would certainly count for something.
Yeah, that looks good on your resume.
Tristani will join the fray along with a couple of tokens.
It's a lot of damage about to come through, and now I think Kiihne is going to either send everything at Karn to clear it out, or he's going to send everything at Brad and just ignore the Karn. Split it up a little bit. He can send 4 things at the Karn, make sure that it dies thanks to the +1/+1 from Tristani.
Tristani Discordant, you know, that last line of text, that whole brand portion of things you don't see happen a ton, but it does come up with the +1/+1 and generating a couple of tokens that have a lifelink. That's the scary part as we head back over to Brad.
Yeah, Kiihne's life total is pretty buffered here. That's not usually a problem if Brad is able to gain control. He should be able to close the game in just giant swingy attacks from Carnage Tyrant or ultimately a Vivian or something. But really he just needs to clear off these creatures that are currently on the battlefield, and if he can't do that, he can't win.
Well, Brad was what was on top of the deck there with Vivian, so he'll play that and select a Swamp.
Well, I know Kiihne has Flourish. I think Brad might actually just be dead. I haven't done the math yet. He can block 1 creature, and then he's going to take 4, 8, 12, 16, 25 damage, 30
That's
damage.
It. Zach Kiihne going to win this game and match over Brad Nelson. Selesnya Token's going to take care of Golgari mid-range. You see Brad consulting there with BBD behind him. Yeah. But for Zach Kiihne, a huge win for him in his young career. one step closer to an invitation on top 8 and beating Brad Nelson.